The city of New Orleans and this country is in the midst of an unprecedented crime surge. This has led to an extremely active docket that keeps our prosecutors incredibly busy. We are all in this building and across the street running on all cylinders. That includes me. I've even been trying cases personally alongside my ADAs, and prosecutors from across the office are stepping up to work across multiple divisions to deal with this unprecedented amount of work. To put it plainly, we have an unparalleled amount of work coming into this building, and we simply need more women and men to help us get through it. To meet the demands of this busy docket, we have been working to identify new technologies, new resources, and new partnerships. Bart and his team of lawyers heard that clarion call for help, and they have stepped up in such a major way. And today he's got members of his team, Jordan Lieberman, Esmeralda Graham, and James Mason. And there's a few other members who aren't with us today. But buddy, we thank you for hearing that call, and we thank everyone who's with us today and all the folks that couldn't make it for hearing the call and realizing that in order to get out of this unprecedented situation, it's going to be a group lift. So for the past few weeks, what have we been doing? For the past few weeks, Bart and his team of 6 lawyers have begun volunteering as assistant district attorneys, supporting our screening division. Specifically with regards to the rapid screening of illegal possession of firearm cases. As an office, we have an ongoing commitment to rid New Orleans of illegal firearms, as we hope this will help stem murders, attempted murders, carjackings, and any other crime where a gun is wielded. During the COVID pandemic, some of you may have been paying attention to some of the national trends, but during the pandemic, there was an enormous spike in legal gun purchases as well as illegal gun purchases. Firearms are often left in unattended cars. Most of the car break-ins and car burglaries, the primary impetus for those burglaries are people looking for guns that they can sell in the black market or use for criminal activity. As all of this, the intersection of all of this has resulted in an exponential increase in the number of firearms that are on the streets of New Orleans, that are on the streets of all of America, frankly. This is a nationwide problem. Bart and his team, this support is helping us move through these types of cases in an exponential way. It is exponentially helpful. It is extremely beneficial to the work that Chief Godin has been trying to do with not enough people, with not enough hours in the day. Working around the clock, you can't get through the backlog that exists now with a number of people that we actually have working in this office. So with that being said, let me please ask up our newest force multiplier here at the DA's office, Buddy Bart. Thank you, buddy.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Jace. Well, first and foremost, I would like to thank the DA, Jason Williams, for giving us the opportunity to assist in a very significant and meaningful way with the extremely important work that the DA's office does. My goal from the beginning has always been very simple. I wanted to step up. I wanted to do something meaningful to help New Orleans, which is a city I love. We have stepped up, and I wanted to give just a little explanation about what we're doing, because I know it's a very different and yet innovative arrangement that we have proposed and we are doing with the DA's office. The first thing I want everybody to know is we are volunteering our services. We are not being paid by the city or state. We're not asking for money. This is a truly volunteer effort in the hope that we will help New Orleans. Secondly, the team I've put together, very good team. We have several lawyers on the team with significant criminal law experience. We have 2 lawyers that have decades of experience as criminal defense attorneys. We have 1 attorney on the team that worked as an assistant district attorney right here in this building. We have another attorney on the team that clerked for a criminal judge directly across the street from us. So we have vast resources in the firm that I'm willing to use for this significant role that we've been given. And the role that we've been given, and I thank the DA for giving us such a meaningful and important job, is we are dealing with the screening of illegal weapons in the city of New Orleans, illegal weapons and or the illegal carrying of these weapons. We take that responsibility very, very serious. And I want to assure everyone, the people of New Orleans, the DA's office, everyone, that we will screen these cases promptly and we will do it correctly. Thank you.
Thank you, buddy. Thank you for those words, and thank you for this effort. It's already yielding real results. They've been working expeditiously on this matter, but I want to bring up Andre Godin, the chief of our screening division, and some of you may recognize that name, you may recognize that face from some of our toughest cases across the street. Andre, I believe, has tried more murder cases, more serious cases than anyone else in this office. And he actually ran to some of the ones that most folks run away from. And he delivered successfully for those. Andre, I want you to walk this group through the details of what we've asked Buddy and his team to do.
Thank you, DA Williams. Thank you, Mr. Bart. As the DA mentioned, the volunteer ADAs are supporting the screening division. Screening division is responsible for gathering the police reports, reviewing the evidence, and deciding the appropriate charges for every criminal case and every criminal arrest made by the police department. Now, we specifically focused on the rapid screening of illegal carrying of weapons 95A misdemeanors. The screening of a illegal possession of a firearm case involves a time-intensive review of body-worn camera. Body-worn camera that lasts hours and hours and has multiple points of view from multiple arresting officers arriving on scene. And by screening these cases, the volunteer ADAs are freeing up the valuable time of our screening prosecutors to continue to focus on other serious cases. Also, the screening division is able to rapidly move these cases from the point of arrest through to trial and prosecution at a significantly enhanced pace. The way it works, the screening division itself identifies viable, standalone 95A illegal carrying of a weapon misdemeanor charges that would be good for transfer to the volunteer ADAs. We transfer them to a member of Mr. Morris Bart's staff who reviews and deconflicts those cases to ensure that they are properly handled by that particular group of ADAs. After clearing deconfliction, a very methodical and a very appropriate review of those cases is handled by that screening team from the volunteer ADAs to make sure that we have the right evidence matching up with the right reports and the right body-worn camera, that everything is copacetic, and then they make a screening recommendation. The cases are then transferred back for final review by myself, and then we put through those bills of information, charging those defendants appropriately. And to be clear, we've done our due diligence to make sure that this group of volunteer ADAs are appropriately trained, they understand the value and mission of this office, that being to increase safety and deliver justice. In addition, they've undergone significant training by shadowing the First Assistant, Mr. Ned McGowan, myself, and other screening prosecutors as we go through this process, by being trained in the relevant legal standards for reviewing these cases, and by understanding the usage of our case management system to adequately and effectively screen these cases in a timely fashion. As the Chief of Screening, I'm intimately I understand all the aspects of the challenges associated with the volume of cases that we deal with in the city of New Orleans. And this volume is only made more challenging by the sheer volume of digital evidence that a modern police department like the New Orleans Police Department provides to us. Their assistance is allowing us to focus our efforts on violent crimes in New Orleans and help us ensure that this office is able to secure justice for all victims and all families. Thank you very much to you and to your team for all your hard efforts and for putting up with the training and the arduous task of understanding the legal standards and our case management system and our system. So thank you so much for your efforts and your team's efforts. And again, thank you to the DA.
Thank you, Andre. So I just want to be clear. We're not suggesting this is a silver bullet. but we don't have enough human beings to handle the amount of work that has been coming through this building and through this system. And Buddy Bart heard that clarion call that we made to the City Council about 2 years ago as crime was beginning to spike, and he stepped up. Since coming out of the shutdown from COVID, we've been clear that we need an all-hands-on-deck approach to stemming violence in the city. On behalf of the screening division and every prosecutor in this office, I am so very grateful for this partnership. I am so very grateful to every lawyer on your team that is stepping away from the business that you've hired them to do to come do this business and this public service pro bono. And it's proof positive that it takes all of us to get into this fight to get us out of it. This is bigger than Morris Bart and Jason Williams. This is about people joining into the fight to increase safety and justice in the city of New Orleans. I pitch it to you, Curtis.
We'll take on-topic questions. Start here, Courtney.
What is your response to the people who say that the chief attorney does not have the right experience for the job?
Well, look, I'll tell you this. I was bowled over by the team that Buddy Bart picked from his office. He's got a woman who was prosecuting before I was, right? Who actually worked with some of the best prosecutors ever, who is coming back home, right, to do this work. A law clerk, Jordan Lieberman, law clerk with Judge Camille Burris, who's one of the finest jurists in the building across the street. And so he brought folks who actually have reps already in the criminal legal system. I understand that there's going to be some folks who are going to say, "This is weird. This is different. Why are you going so far outside of the box?" Well, when you're the murder capital of the world, you have to start thinking differently. You have to start thinking outside of the box to figure out a way to combat this crime surge, and that is exactly what we're doing.
Courtney?
Two questions. First question, tell me, how did this partnership come about? Why Morris Bart and not someone else? And also, will the lawyers be full-time or part-time?
So let me be clear. Number one, these lawyers are volunteering their efforts, right? I don't think Buddy Bart is shutting down the practice of law. I'm pretty clear on that, right?
That's true.
But they are volunteering hours of their day to help us cut through a backlog of these gun crime cases. This is a volunteer effort, and why Buddy? Because Buddy stepped up. Because Buddy, as opposed to pointing fingers or just criticizing, he saw a need. He saw that more human beings, more men and women who understand this, getting in the fight can help us get out of this, can help us not be the murder capital of the world, to allow my experienced prosecutors to spend time on more serious cases. See, he's getting involved in some of that stuff that has been keeping folks here longer hours of the day and working weekends so they can focus. There's been nobody having a particularly good quality of life here in this DA's office because there's just too much work. So why Buddy Bart? Because Buddy Bart stepped up.
Would you mind?
Oh, please.
Can I just add one thing? I'd just like to add one thing to what you said. I just want to clarify that we really are wearing two hats. Yes, we are still private civil attorneys handling personal injury cases. When we do this work for the DA's office, we are doing it as fully commissioned assistant district attorneys. We have gotten our commission. We've gone through training, the same training and screening that any other assistant district attorney would go through. And so as we review these cases, when you say why us, it's because we have done the heavy lifting to learn how to handle these cases, how to screen them as an ADA, not as private civil attorneys.
Thank you.
You see that? Does that make sense to you?
Yes. You have the largest budget in the history of the DA's office. Tell me, you got approved the money for screening. Why do you need volunteers?
Well, look, I'll tell you, if you look at the hires, whether it be for the NOPD, Plaquemine Sheriff's Office, the Orleans Parish DA's office, or any DA's office, there aren't a ton of people running to get involved in law enforcement in the wake of George Floyd, in the wake of Breonna Taylor. The paradigm has shifted a little bit. Folks in law school aren't thinking about jobs on this particular side of the V. Why is that? Well, you know, we had a serious reckoning the summer of COVID. And there aren't just experienced prosecutors growing on trees waiting for me to call them and pay them far less than they deserve to be paid to do this work.
Rob?
Mr. Williams, have you, I'm sure you've looked at the Code of Ethics on this. Section 3, Part A says, the Code of Government Ethics prohibits the receipt of a thing of economic value from a source other than the governmental entity for the performance of official duties and responsibilities. Are you familiar with this? Part B says, receipt of anything of economic value for the performance of a service substantially related to public duties or which draws on non-public information.
We vetted this, Rob. I'm aware of that. We are not flying afoul of any law or protocol or rule of court in an effort to do this thing. But I promise you, we will continue to push the envelope to make this city safe. You're going to hear from us very soon about some technological advancements and some other force multipliers that we're going to bring to bear that have never happened in DA's offices before. But just because it hasn't happened doesn't mean that we should not endeavor to do it if we can make our community safer.
May?
Mr. Williams, a couple of things. Will it be homicides and that type of thing? Are you looking for other outsourcing with those kinds of cases? And you said you had unprecedented amount of work. Is part of that because police have long complained the same people keep getting rearrested, let out, rearrested, let out? Is that what's adding to all these cases that are coming in that the people who the community feels should be locked up are not locked up?
So when you look at the unprecedented amount of cases that we're dealing with, we're talking about the number of cases that stacked up during the COVID shutdown. If you think back to this building over here, Tulane and Broad, as we call it in the city of New Orleans, every other parish kept moving forward. Every other parish got open right away. They started trying cases a lot faster than we did. So we had cases stacking up and piling up at a time that our city, our parish, was having an extreme crime surge. So even more new cases coming into the system. Add to that the Ramos decision requiring us to retry and deal with a number of cases that were sent back that victims and prosecutors thought were resolved. So this is just an unparalleled time period in the city of New Orleans before you even get to the bonds that some of the judges are setting that I believe are too low across the street at Tulane and Broad. It is just simply an intersection of a number of things that are increasing the caseload and work level for the folks in this office.
And will the homicide cases be outsourced?
No. You know, when you start talking about victim crimes, that's not something that can be done in the same way. A victim shouldn't be introduced to a new person every 6 months or every 2 months, and that is why we have been endeavoring to stand up a homicide unit with dedicated trial assistants. Other folks call them paralegals, dedicated investigators. These folks will be focused on the murders that are happening in this city and those trials across the street. Those things simply can't be outsourced. They're too complicated, they're too sensitive, and the victims deserve continuity of the individuals they will be dealing with within our office. But I think Andre addressed this in his remarks, and Buddy addressed it in his remarks as well. These folks are being trained on what to look for and what they're looking at. If you've got a case right now, if two police cars come up, those two police cars might have 2 officers in each car. That's 4 sets of body-worn camera footage that have to be reviewed in order to screen that case properly, regardless of the outcome, right? So that's just 10 years ago, you didn't have 4 pieces of body-worn camera footage that might have lasted 30 minutes each, right? So that's adding the workload. So all those things are adding to what I'm describing and what we're trying to work for.
Yeah, so did this collaboration start before or after the Mardi Gras Day refusal of those 15 gun cases that came up in first appearance?
It actually started before. That's a great question, Mike. And I can tell you, Buddy and his team were as upset as I was about the results of that Mardi Gras Day hearing, because we want these cases screened, and it's about process. It's about process, not just results, it's about process. Sure, you want your kids to be nourished. You want them to eat, but you don't eat in the car, you don't eat standing up, you eat at a dinner table, right? It's about process, and the process in terms of how we screen cases, they're screened appropriately, not over at first appearance or first blush.
Could you give any more insight, just given the unprecedented and novel nature of this collaboration, could you give any insight into, if this was already in place, how that happened on Mardi Gras with this whole team reviewing multiple hours of body cam on these specific types of cases?
Well, it was none of these members were working on that particular Mardi Gras day. That was one hearing, not all hearings during Mardi Gras. As I said at the top of my remarks, we have division ADAs from across the entire office working at first appearances in different areas. All the other first appearance settings, bonds were set. And bonds were set commensurate with the bond recommendations that we've laid out. That is the process. That is what was supposed to have happened. You know, and working with Buddy and his team, we've been working to train them. We've been working to put them in position to do this work, and they have stepped up to do it. And actually, our last conversation, I think we're going to be adding some more folks to this effort so that we can do it better and continue to do it better.
So where does the internal review stand with Ms. Ma on that situation?
Well, we were talking about that today. We have ordered transcripts. We got the last transcript today in reviewing those cases. Some of those cases are going to be accepted and prosecuted across the street. Two of those cases are viable for federal adoption because there is in fact a federal nexus, especially with regards to the case involving the gentleman from Tennessee with the modified handgun. That would fall in the bailiwick of federal authorities, and we plan on making such a referral. Other cases have been accepted as well. We're reviewing all of those things, and we're making sure that nothing like that ever happens again.
Thank you, Gabby.
And so I'm Gabby Hill from the Times Picayune. I'm curious, New Orleans, we all know, is a small town, big city. So it's probable and possible that defendants who come up in these 95A charges might have relationships in the past, or might have had, rather, with Bart, LLC. So I'm curious if you all have thought about a process for these attorneys to recuse themselves, you know, or what that looks like.
One of the first things we thought about, you know, and you know, we have to do that process for other lawyers who are full-time in the DA's office. We do a conflicts checks with regards to me, with regards to other lawyers, if someone worked in any other capacity, and we do that same conflicts check here. And Chief Godin talked about that being the first step in the process before it is even referred to one of our volunteer screeners.
Maybe ask Mr. Bart?
Sure, one last question.
Oh, okay. Just curious, how much will this add to your payroll? I know it's pro bono to the city, but how much do you expect, how many hours do you expect your attorneys to be contributing in that cost?
It's a pretty heavy lift. Fortunately, I have a big firm. We're over 100 lawyers, but right now I have 6 attorneys that are spending perhaps an hour to 2 hours each per day on it. We're ramping up. There's a big inventory from Mardi Gras that we're trying to gobble. And I expect to add 4 more lawyers from my firm. So I'm hoping by next week we'll have 10 lawyers, and then it can settle down to maybe an hour per day per lawyer.
All right, thank you.
One last thing I just want to say. There's some folks out here who might say these misdemeanors aren't a big deal. Misdemeanors, when they relate to guns in a city like ours, are always a big deal. It's called the Big Easy because people like to come here and drink and hang out in big crowds. And when you add a firearm to a big crowd or to alcohol, that can very easily turn into a very dangerous thing. So that is why this is so hugely important, and that is why this partnership is so hugely impactful. Thank you, everybody, for your time.
Thank you. Great, Jason.
Thank you. Kathy, thank you for sacrificing a little bit more to do some stuff for the city. We appreciate it.
Yeah, that's what it is. Yeah.